Adding and removing material in your sequence are only part of the story. Among other things, it's also important to be able to effectively move material around in the timeline. So let's take a look at the most effective ways to do that in Final Cut. I'm going to go in my 3.6 keyword collection and load my Move Begin sequence. And this is just a montage set to music to try to tell the Project Relo story. So I'll go ahead and play the first minute or so of it for you, and then I want to take a look at a couple of areas. So hopefully it's working pretty well, but I want to change a few things around. And I have some markers here that we can focus in on. So I'm going to come to this first one and just zoom in a little bit, Command++, and I'll play over this. So it looks like we have a point of view shot, and then we see the guys in the side-by-side, and we have another shot of the guys in the side-by-side. So let's go ahead and just swap these shots. We've done this before in this course. It's very basic. You just click and drag. And as you do, there is a little number readout telling you how far you're moving the clip. So if I go a little bit further, you can see that number grow. But I'll go ahead and just drop it here. And that's a very basic type of move. But now I'm going to come down here and I'll play this. There's a little chord here, and I'd like to edit to that. I'll play over that one more time. So basically, I want this shot to start right here. Now, I can't drag it over. I can go all the way and swap shots, not a problem. However, I can't just drag it over because of Final Cut's magnetic timeline. So in Chapter 4, when we talk all about trimming, there's actually a lot of ways that I can do this quite easily. But in this movie, we're just talking about moving clips, so I want to show you how you can get this done by nudging. To nudge a clip, you just select it, and then you use your comma and period keys. So comma will nudge 1 frame at a time to the left, period 1 frame at a time to the right. If you add shift to those, shift comma will go 10 frames at a time to the left, and shift period will go 10 frames at a time to the right. So let's go ahead and line that up. I'll get that right there on the marker where we have that chord, and let's play. All right, I think that's working fine. And I have another one right here. Again, an edit that I want to match to the music. Let's go ahead and take a listen. So where the electric guitar comes in is where I want this shot to start. So again, I'm just going to select it, and then I'll press Shift period a couple times and get that lined up, and we'll see how that goes. All right, I think that works well. Let me undo that though, because I want to show you what happens when you don't have the select tool enabled. So up here, we have the select tool enabled. That's what we're in 95% of the time. But if I have the position tool enabled and I nudge, you'll see that a gap clip is created in its wake. And sometimes you might want to do this. So if I want to move that over and I have another shot in mind that I want to put here, that's great. I've made a placeholder for it. And by the way, while I still have the position tool enabled, I just want to mention a few more things about moving clips. When you move a clip with the position tool enabled, it's not going to swap anything. It's basically just destroying everything in its wake like you see here, and it always leaves a gap clip behind. So let me undo that, Command Z, and I'll actually do Command Z a few more times back to when I had this nudged over. And I want to make sure to get back to my select tool, so I'll press A. So I think I'm back to good timing here. And I think that works well. Now, I just have one more thing that I want to mention, and that is moving something and copying at the same time. So right now, my music is too short to cover the montage. But I've made some cuts in the music here. And remember, you make cuts by using the blade tool. Again, that's in this menu here, keyboard shortcut B. So I enabled the blade tool, and then I found a beat where I was able to loop the audio. So when you're working with temp music like this, sometimes you will need to cut up your music and loop certain sections. So I'm going to go back to my select tool here. I'm going to move this down, and I'll move it way down so I have enough room. And then I just want to duplicate this, so I'm going to Option drag it over like so. All right, and if I zoom in, I can click and drag to make sure that it's lined up exactly, or I can nudge. So I have it selected, and I can press my comma key several times. And as soon as I go too far, it's going to pop down, so I know the exact frame that I need to have this on. And I'll do the same thing here. We'll go ahead and just nudge. I'll press comma a few times until it's too far, and then I'll go back. And let's take a listen. So not too bad for some quick and dirty temp music editing. An audio person might cringe, but it's probably not too bad until we can hand it over to a composer. So that's a little bit on moving and nudging clips. Definitely some useful techniques in certain circumstances, and when it's teamed with trimming, as we'll learn in Chapter 4, there's really nothing you can't do in the Final Cut timeline.